Is it Friday yet? Thursday? Oh, crap. All right, well, we'll power through this. My first guest, Andrew Hell's coming on from the Heritage Foundation to put a little more depth on the news that you just heard there. Trump tariffs are getting another delay, and out of respect for Sheinbaum. And then I believe Canada's going to get themselves a delay, and the automakers were exempt anyway. So what the heck is going on? Andrew Hell, well, what's going on with the tariffs? Where are we at with that?
Well, yes, President Trump just announced a pause in the tariffs for Mexico, and he heaped praise on President Claudia Sheinbaum. These tariffs, that we were told, were not about traditional trade policy. They were about border security and the fentanyl crisis. There is a flood of illegal migrants coming to the United States for years now, as well as fentanyl coming to the United States. And so President Trump declared an emergency under IEPA, that's the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and there is a justifiable emergency at the border with regards to these issues. And Claudia Sheinbaum has conceded to President Trump's demands. He's using tariffs as an instrument of statecraft and economic coercion to address matters that go well beyond trade policy, and this has been a success with regards to Mexico. It's been more problematic in the discussions with Prime Minister Trudeau because I don't think they're friends. They don't like each other. They don't have a lot in common. And Prime Minister Trudeau is a lame duck, a caretaker prime minister. He has resigned. He's only in this position until Mark Carney, who's due to win the Liberal Party leadership election in Canada, will take over. And I think that Mark Carney is basically saying, we don't want to have this Keystone XL pipeline, which is what President Trump wants, because he's all about ESG and he's anti-fossil fuel.
Oh, brother. Great.
Yeah, and Trudeau likes seamless trade with China, and Trump would like, the administration would like to have Canada impose the same sorts of tariffs on China that we are here in the United States.
Well, a lot of people were pointing out that the tariffs are just for reciprocal trade, and Canada was not on a level playing field before Trump showed up. They have ridiculous tariffs on like our dairy and on our butter and a bunch of just, it seems seemingly random stuff, but clearly it's protectionist tariffs against U.S. imports already. That doesn't seem to be getting brought up a bunch. Do you think they'll budge on that?
Well, as I was discussing too with some Canadian business people, are we really going to go for a trade war over milk? There's more dairy produced in the state of Wisconsin than there is in all of Canada. And this matter of the Canadian dairy was brought before a dispute panel under USMCA, I believe it was last year, and they ruled in favor of Canada. Also, the other issue that always bedevils U.S.-Canada trade is the softwood lumber in British Columbia. But if you when I speak to home builders and other groups, associations representing them, they tell me if given the choice, American consumers prefer to choose Canadian softwood lumber because it's less termite prone and it's better quality. But then again, if you put tariffs on that, then it's a likely conclusion will be that builders will, to keep the price down of the house, they'll start purchasing more American lumber.
So how did the automakers deal into this? Were they even going to get hit with the tariffs to begin with?
Well, the thing is, though, the automakers, Ford and General Motors, for example, sell massive amounts of GM cars and Ford trucks, SUVs in Canada for those harsh Canadian winters. All my friends in Canada drive those. And we do need export markets. And so obviously they telephoned President Trump, and President Trump is a businessman himself. He works very well with leaders of industry. And so that pause on those were also negotiated and achieved. Senator Susan Collins of Maine wrote to him, as well as other senators. Very, very concerned she is because there's over $6 billion in trade between the state of Maine and Canada. So again, but I'm cautiously optimistic that they will be paused. My concern is the fact that I think that Prime Minister Trudeau, as President Trump has mentioned himself publicly, I think that he's weaponizing this in the current Canadian process with regards to Liberal leadership contest, and also there's a pending general election this year in Canada, and he's stoking a lot of this. He's wrapping himself in the Canadian flag, which of course is ironic coming from him, since he's used to call people like that bigots and racists.
Right.
And said Canada has their distinct identity, and now of course he's discovered traditional Conservative Party territory, patriotism, and he's now saying buy Canadian, all that sort of stuff. So I think he's also playing politics as well, which isn't helpful at this time.
Where do you come from that they say patriotism instead of patriotism?
So I was born here in the United States, but I grew up overseas, and so I'm afraid that my accent is somewhat different.
Yeah, where? Britain?
In the United Kingdom and Switzerland and Canada, in Quebec.
All right. I can hear a little bit here and there, just a couple of misplaced vowels. Thank you very much, Andrew Hell, Heritage Foundation. I appreciate the depth on the tariff discussion, sir. One of the most important stories of the day is this story about Hunter Biden. New York Post says that he has filed some paperwork in some court to drop some lawsuit, some defamation thing about the laptop situation because he's broke. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, what do you mean you broke? What happened to all that Burisma money you were getting? What happened to all the money you were getting from your awesome art career? Is that not taken off? I thought you were doing really well. Well, he actually mentions that specifically. He mentions the art career has fallen off a cliff. He's also mentioned that there's no royalties coming in from his book anymore. He's like, at the 6 months prior to this date, he had sold over 3,000 copies. 3,000 copies? Dude, even if you get like $1 a copy, which is be a pretty handsome royalty, $3,000? Good Lord, dude, it's not a lot of money over a 6 month span. Even if you're getting $10 a copy, $30,000 over a 6 month span, it's a middle class salary, bud. But what does that mean? We're going to go back in James Show history. Did you bring the flux capacitor, Garrett? Did you bring that today? Because I left mine at home. Yeah. All right, so we're going to go all the way back to December of 2024. We're going to go back 2.5 months. But there was an excellent show by a very handsome radio host called James Parker. And I was bringing up something that, I put like little thumbtacks in my memory. And there was a case that the FBI had used the Hunter Biden laptop as evidence. And so that means not only is it not in dispute, it's not, probably his laptop. It's unquestionably his laptop. Like, there's no gray area on whether or not just the laptop is Hunter's, but the contents of the laptop, all the videos, all the text messages, all the emails, all the stuff that has been released from the laptop. We all know that's legit. So the one thing that was exposed back in December was just a line of questioning that Jen Psaki answered wrong. Or I'm sorry, Karine Jean-Pierre answered wrong. And let's go listen to just a quick chunk of this James Show episode from December 27th of last year. But the most naked of the bribes was the art scam. So Hunter Biden finger paints on a canvas for 20 minutes, sells it for $200,000, and we're supposed to believe that it's just some guy that's an art collector. And he just loves the work. Maybe it's an investment piece. Oh, really? There's going to be another person that's going to buy that art from him for a higher price? Because if that's the case, then this would be a legit endeavor. Okay, so now we're here. Is it a legit endeavor? Absolutely not. Now we got to go back in time a little bit more. I know I put all this together like a Netflix documentary. We're going to go back to July 9th, 2021. Jen Psaki talking about Hunter's art buyers. They're anonymous, y'all.
I have a question on Hunter Biden's artwork. Did the White House play any role in crafting the sales agreement with the New York Gallery to protect the purchasers or the ultimate purchaser's identity?
Well, I can tell you that after careful consideration, a system has been established that allows for Hunter Biden to work in his profession within reasonable safeguards. Of course, he has the right to pursue an artistic career, just like any child of a president has the right to pursue a career.
It's just an artistic
but all interactions
career.
Regarding the selling of art and the setting of prices will be handled by a professional gallerist adhering to the highest industry standards, and any offer out of the normal course would be rejected out of hand, and the gallerist will not share information about buyers or prospective buyers.
All right. So any out of hand, any wild pricing, anything that deviates from the norm will be rejected, and it'll be anonymous. Well, we found out both that the art was selling for prices that were completely unheard of for a guy that's on his second painting. and also that it wasn't anonymous. So she was asked about that. That's why I got this date wrong earlier. July 22nd, 2021. This was all exposed, and she was asked about it again, and she continues the grift. Like, this is a real art career.
Also, we now know that Hunter Biden is going to be able to meet with prospective buyers at 2 art shows where his paintings are going to be on display later this year. How does this square with the goal of keeping him in the dark about the buyers of his art as a means to prevent even the appearance of undue influence?
Well, this showing that was...
Yeah. It doesn't matter what she says. We now know it's all a lie. Because the front here, what I was accusing him of, what you were thinking, what most of us were thinking who have a critical thought processes floating around in our brain was, okay, so this guy is no longer able to take naked bribes. So all he has to do is scribble on this canvas. Someone can give him a ton of money, and then it's legal. And then the transfer of wealth, doesn't show up in court. Why'd he give you this money? Well, this wasn't a bribe. He just wanted to buy a piece of art. Yeah, that's the ticket. So the safeguards that were put up in place and the goalposts that we were looking for were, number one, well, if you make that anonymous, then that could kind of put that wall of separation and make it not a bribe. Because if he doesn't know who's giving him the money, how does he know who to give the favors to? Well, that wall's fallen down. We know they're not anonymous. Well, what if he, just sells a painting? There's nothing wrong with that. Unless, you see some wildly inflated prices, then that would be indicative of something nefarious, something more so than an art enthusiast just trying to get a hold of a Hunter Biden piece. Well, that wall has fallen. And then also the other logical conclusion you could draw is after his dad is no longer in power, if no one else comes through and non-anonymously spends 6 figures on one of his finger paintings, that's a pretty obvious sign that this wasn't about the art. Because you could, look, even if you're trying to say maybe there's just some guy out there who's a huge fan of Joe Biden and he thinks it would be cool to have some art from his son. Like, wouldn't you think it was cool if you were an art collector to maybe have the art of the son of Abraham Lincoln or the son of Calvin Coolidge or the son of FDR or the son of, Robert F. Kennedy? Bad example. But since the market has dried up since his dad left power, that proves that was not the real motivation. That was not the real impetus, the inspiration, the value created behind the art. The fact that he's admitting now in a court filing that he's not selling any more paintings and no one's interested. There's no question. There's no excuse left. Every excuse they gave, every excuse Jen Psaki gave 3 years ago and then again a couple months ago, they've all fallen away. This was the most naked and pretty much obvious front for a bribery that you have seen in your entire lifetime. And the fact that this now proves that the last president was completely compromised from day one, since he was a vice president, been selling influence to by the millions, to the Russians, to the Serbians, to the Chinese, to the Ukrainians. And then that's where we need to pull it all back together now. Why are we in all of this mess with Ukraine? Is it just a coincidence that Hunter had all these connections? Is it just a coincidence that a phone call to Ukraine is what was the motive behind the first Trump impeachment trial? All just a coincidence? Is it just a coincidence that Putin took land under Bush and Obama and Biden, but not Trump? A lot of coincidences here. It's starting to make more mathematical sense. I mean, it's almost a mathematical certainty that this was all 100% corruption and the media just pretended to not know any better. Oh, it's just art. He just wants to have a splatter paint that matches his couch. No one was that stupid to begin with, and no one can even begin to deny it when you look at the facts of the case, knowing what we know now. The grift is up. Will this guy ever go to jail? He should. Spencer McGowan from Net Worth Radio is coming on the James Show to answer the one big question, all this tariff talk, all the changes, all the, minute-by-minute updates. How's this going to affect my money, Spencer?
Well, in the long run, probably very healthy. That's the first thing I would say. You do have dramatic government spending cuts. That's likely to have inflation go down by more than the tariffs might cause. I've got a 2018 example on that. You got deregulation, you got tax cuts in the work, and the Doge clock, as of today, says the government's already cut 170 or identified 170 billion in cuts that are underway.
All right. So the cuts identified, are they actually going to be cut in the spending bill that's about to happen?
Well, Congress is on board, evidenced, Tuesday night. I really think that anybody that was a straggler in the Republican Party is much more on board after watching the Democrats, during that display. So you've really got a unified opportunity for Congress to get on board with those cuts. And a lot of them, it's not like you can force Treasury Secretary Bessent to spend money. You can't force a lot of this, even though the co-equal branch, the Justice or the courts may say, okay, you've got to spend that because Congress said so. That may not be true in the end. And so there's some discretionary power, obviously, by the job cuts so far. And it's estimated about 500,000 government jobs and related contracts would be cut by the end of the year.
I'm getting the impression the market doesn't know what to think about this. It was a great day yesterday. It was kind of a rough day today. It reached intraday highs, and last I checked, it was now in the negative. So I don't think the market really knows what's gonna shake out in 6 months.
Well, back to your original question, and you're right. The uncertainty is sending some shock waves. You've really got a pretty big tech correction underway. The Nasdaq's down nearly 10%, but this says you were due for about a 10% pullback in the markets, and we've gotten most of that. That's a healthy pullback. The tech stocks just went berserk, crazy overpriced, and they're coming back to earth. That's more of a healthy correction, than it is, let's say, the beginning of an ugly bear, and based upon the profits. So if you look at corporate profits, and this is longer term, this has to do with our 401ks. If you look at corporate profits, they were up about 12% over last year, 10 to 12% at the last count. That's a healthy growth rate. Now, if you add deregulation, that's more productivity, better profit margins, and the deregulation takes effect really in the second half of this year, and you'll start to see that get built in once you have a little more visibility. People on the left, I heard the phrase, an orange flea on a hot rock when it comes to Trump's tariffs here day by day.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. What do they mean by that? That's a weird metaphor.
Oh, well, it relates back to when they called him Orange Man bad, but the tariff negotiations are actually going quite well. And despite what the mainstream media is saying about the uncertainty, CNBC exacerbates that, and it has exacerbated the sell-off. This is more of a healthy, normal correction. And when you start to see the impact of a lot of what's happening, I think you're looking at dramatic inflation decreases.
So the one thing I'm looking at for those inflation decreases is, can we balance the budget? Can we not have to print, $1 trillion or $2 trillion every year just to keep the checks flying out? Do you think we'll balance the budget?
Well, $1 trillion in cuts is the target for 2026, according to Doge's website. And there are already 170 billion identified. They're not even 2 months into it. So they're on track to accomplish half of the deficit. Now, part of the other half gets eliminated by just normal growth. And you say, okay, do you have to balance the budget? The answer is the bond market and the financial markets could react extremely positive once the federal budget deficit starts to go down. Now, one of my best sources is usdebtclock.org. It has all the information, right? Federal tax revenue, budget deficit, national debt, GDP. It's worth studying. But when you start to see the deficit numbers drop, then you get some very positive impacts on the financial market. So it's when the deficit indicates, yes, we're reducing that, you're headed in the right direction, and there'll be some rewards for that, I believe.
All right. Spencer McGowan, what are you guys talking about on Net Worth Radio this weekend?
Well, you've helped me to frame the show because you always bring the relevant questions, with the James Show. So I said bull market, bear market, or stealth bear market. Is the bull market over? Recent bad news, recent good news, and of course, the tariff chaos, which is basically a day-to-day by negotiation that'll eventually help the United States. So we'll be on the same path. We'll just have a little more time to talk about it.
All right, there he is, Spencer McGowan, Net Worth Radio. Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, sir.
When's the next James Show meetup? I'm looking at March 25th. I will announce a location probably Tuesday. But it's going to be in Plano. What? That's all I got. I'll stick around. Keep listening to the James Show. Yeah, we've had a few listener meetups. We've been doing this once a month since the end of last year. And the next one, I tried to move this around so we can hit all neighborhoods. This is going to be in Plano at Parker and Custer, I believe. But details, stick around for details coming up on Tuesday's show. Tomorrow, we're going to play a little Name That Artist. I'll give away some tickets. We got a lot going on. Keep it here on the James Show. Now, you had the big Trump sort of State of the Union. Technically not a State of the Union, joint session of Congress address or something like that. But you already know the story by now. Al Green, the congressional representative from the Houston area, stood up, waved his old man cane and shouted, and he wouldn't sit back down even when he was asked nicely, even when they banged the gavel, even when he got warned, even when they called the sergeant at arms. So he got removed. So now the fallout to that continues. And today, this is so weird. There was, in Congress, a resolution to censure him. Now, censure him is one of the most government things ever. It's supposed to be a punishment. But do you know what it means when you're censured? You know what happens to you? Nothing. There's just the fact that a majority of the people in the chamber voted that you're a shame on you. That's the punishment. It's such a lame punishment. Oh, no, don't censure me. What happens? Absolutely nothing. Well, what's the point of this? Nothing. It's just a public statement that everyone condemns his behavior, or, all the Republicans plus 10 Democrats that voted in the House today condemned his behavior. But here's where we get into sort of a logical paradox. The problem with Al Green's behavior wasn't that someone was trying to interrupt his free speech. It's that he was interrupting what? An official proceeding. He was interrupting, not following the rules of decorum in the House, not behaving properly. And so in this session, after the votes come in and it passes, the resolution censuring him, he's supposed to get called to the podium, and then they read him, the riot act, basically. But a handful of supporters of Al Green crowded around the podium at the front of Congress today, and they started singing. What do you mean singing? I mean, they were just singing. It sound like a hymn or something. So here's Speaker Johnson going through the procedure here. I'll let you hear it for yourself.
On this vote, the yeas are 224. The nays are 198, with 2 answering present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh. Will Representative Green present himself to the well? By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
All right, you hear him singing?
The House will come to order. The House will come to order.
What's that? You want to let him keep doing this, or totally clear?
The House will come to order. Clear the well, please. Clear the well. The House has to continue its business.
They're not clearing the well. They're not allowing House to continue its business.
Just say the House is Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the House will stand in recess subject to the call of the chair.
So they had to delay the House proceedings. So, are these guys insurrectionists? Because that's the big claim. Remember January 6th? What did they do? They tried to overthrow the government. They tried to overthrow the government by what? Loitering through the Capitol building? No, they interrupted an official proceeding of the House of Representatives. And anytime you do that, oh, shut up. Protesters have been interrupting the procedures of the House of Representatives on a semi-regular basis. It's just a one-time Team Red does it. Y'all act like, oh my goodness, anytime someone tries to interrupt the flow of government, they're insurrectionists and they need to be thrown in jail for the next 4 years or till whenever they can get a pardon. Y'all calm down. The real question becomes, though, are these guys going to get in trouble? You're not allowed to do that. They're breaking the rules of decorum in the House. And there's already a movement. There's already rumors and chatter of everyone that got into the well around the podium there and started singing. Maybe they should be censured as well. But did you hear the song, though? Doesn't it sound like a hymn? I saw a post on social media the other day. Someone from the Dallas area was talking about they went to the 50-51 protest at Dealey Plaza. What was that? A couple days ago. And it was on Sunday. And they said, this is the America I want to be a part of. This is the future I want to believe in. It was nothing but love and clever signs. And I'm sharing this because I want to encourage anyone who is hesitant. You should go to the next one. It's not dangerous. The organizers work with police on the route we marched. It was a positive presence. And they keep saying all kinds of wonderful things and encouraging people that here's what we should do. We should get together every Sunday morning and we'll listen to each other's speeches about the important topics and words of wisdom of the day. We will share our favorite quotes from our preferred scriptures on these signs, and we'll sing together. We'll worship together. We will fellowship and commune together and sing familiar, reverent songs. It sounds like you're going to church. Just so you know. All you people who hate those evil, evangelical, right-wing fascists, Christo-fascists, you're getting together on Sunday morning, fellowshipping with like-minded individuals, sharing words of wisdom and scripture, basically, what's on your signs. Because he talked about, all the clever signs and whatnot. You're hearing a speech from some of your respected leaders to get your instruction, to get your fellowship, to get your inspiration. You've just replaced Jesus with politics. 800-288-9227. Isn't that weird? 800-288-9227. Is that what you see? Some of these people, especially these protesters, these people who are so vehement. They're almost in a religious fervor about this. This is their religion, isn't it? Protesting, wokeness, activism. They've replaced Jesus with activism. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, State Rep Brian Harrison's going to tell you what a dumpster fire is going on at the state legislative session in Austin. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.